Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Cooking Lessons at Shelter Harbor. And today we're going to show you duck and chutney. Chutney is a really nice item. It lasts a long time in the fridge. It's great for duck. And I'm going to start with the vinegar and the sugar, orange juice. What we're basically starting here is similar to a pickle. We have nice acidity and nice sweet. And we're going to get in the ingredients that will really benefit from having more time in the liquid. So we're going to get the onions in, and we're going to get the ginger in. And that's probably around 2 tablespoons of ginger. And I'll have a recipe of this for you, so you won't have to remember. I let that come to a simmer and reduce a little bit. And I'm going to get the raisins in there. Another item that we have in here is the 5 spice. It's really strong, so we're going to be careful not to use it all. Use about that much. And not all the pepper either, but white pepper is nice and spicy. We've got our nice bowl of diced apples, and they're going to go in. I'm going to get our red pepper in there too. You'll see a lot of chutney recipes online with a lot more ingredients than this, but this is a nice straightforward chutney. And now, in the meantime, we're going to start our duck. These are skin-on duck breasts, and I got these from Tony at Dunn's Corner Market. He has these very often. These aren't quite as big as the ones that we use at the club, so generally if I'm cooking these at home, I think of about 1.5 duck breasts per person if I think it's a hungry person, or 1 duck breast per person if I think it's a light eater. The problem with duck, and the reason why it makes everyone so concerned about cooking duck, is it's really fatty. You can see it has a really nice fatty layer protecting the meat, and that's part of what makes it so good. So I'm going to take a nice sharp knife, and we're going to trim off any excess fat that's doing any more than just covering the meat. We're going to look out for any silver skin on the duck breast, which honestly would not be a big deal, but it's better to take it off. This one has a little bit of a thicker silver skin, so we're going to try and take that off a bit more. So now we just have nice clean duck meat covered by the skin. We're going to flip it over to the meat side, and we're going to carefully score the skin so that we're cutting down pretty close to the meat without actually cutting the meat. So when I say we're scoring it, we're putting a little grid in the fat. And you can see when we put a little grid in the fat like that, it's going to allow the hot oil to penetrate and get the fat from inside each one of those little scored sections. Now we're going to turn our pan on, and we're going to put just a little oil. And you don't need a lot of oil because the duck is going to render its fat, and it's going to add more oil to the pan. Salt and pepper. And you can be pretty liberal with the salt because some of it's going to come off in the oil, and less liberal with the pepper always. Put the duck in there. Really, I only need to do 2 for our demo, but we here who are cooking and filming all like duck, so we may as well have a little extra. And the pan right now is on medium-high just to get it started. We want to sort of establish the sear. Then we're going to go down to a nice medium-low, and we're going to let that fat render out really nice and slow for like, say, 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's not sticking, that's good. And you can see that it's already starting to happen. But what we don't want is to be in a hurry and get that skin really dark brown before it renders. We want it to happen nice and slow. It's just like cooking bacon. Starts out with a ton of fat, the fat renders out, and it gets more and more crisp. And you can check it, pick it up and check it every once in a while to make sure it's doing all right. Now, just so you know, the meat really is not cooking at all right now. It's staying pretty much completely raw, which is great, because that means we're getting all this work done to the skin and we haven't even really started our cooking process. And you can really see how the skin's crisping up nice. And a lot of people want to stop right there, but you can actually go quite a bit more. It's almost like the more you can get it rendered and cook all that fat out without it burning, the better off you're going to be. Also, you have no concerns about the meat. It's still dead raw. When you start to have a lot of fat in the pan, it's actually perfectly okay to render with a lot of fat. The only thing is you're throwing a lot of ambient fat into your house. So you're actually better off just draining off a little bit of the fat and just leave a thin layer and just keep going. A lot of times you can just relax and let it do its thing. It does take just a little bit of patience to let the skin render nice and crisp. And this is the difference between all those restaurants you go to that serve you a duck that's still too fatty and the restaurants you go to that serve you a duck that's nice and crisp and still medium rare. You'll also start to see, as the duck skin gets really crisp, you'll start to see the meat sort of pucker up and the whole breast gets taller and rounder. And that sort of lets you know that you're getting to the point where the skin is crisped enough. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. That one there. That one there. Now I'll pour off the excess fat. And we'll go over to the meat side. Now we are cooking. Now a neat thing that somebody showed me is the duck has a rounded edge. So if you line up that rounded edge with the round of the pan, it kind of touches the edge nicely and gives it a little bit more of an even cook. Probably from this point, in a nice slow pan, we're maybe another 5-6 minutes out cooking time. Then we'll set it on a cutting board to rest for a few minutes so it evens up in the inside, and we'll be ready to slice. Meantime, we'll take a look at the chutney, and a lot of the right things are happening here. You can see that the apple has softened, and the liquid is getting thick, and we'll just take that a little further. Normally, of course, you'd make your chutney the afternoon before or even the day before. You wouldn't have to manage your chutney while you're cooking your duck. The duck would go great with a little scoop of chutney, some wild rice, some green vegetables, anything like that. And I know you know how to make rice, so I just tried to show you a couple things that'll work well. The duck has come along nicely, and I can feel that it's real firm. The chutney, meanwhile, has turned out really nice. Another spot here where you have to remind yourself to be patient is to just try and let the duck rest a couple minutes. It helped that I was working in a really slow pan. It wasn't so blazing hot that it really needs to rest as long as it would. Now we're just going to slice the duck breast. And those little cuts that we made in the skin will actually help us, because you can kind of go in between those cuts. It makes it just a little easier to slice. A little bit of chutney. And there you go, Shelter Harbor.